All right, we are back again with another lathe video. I don't know if I mentioned this before too, but you may realize by now that I am not a professional videographer, nor am I a professional editor. I know, again, you're shocked. So, so do bear with me on these videos. We're just trying to communicate information in the clearest way that I can come up with. And if you have feedback or thoughts about what might be better or videos that you would like to see, please do include those in the D2L chat as the opportunity comes up. So with that said, let's move on. All right, so I have a blank here. So this video is going to be for putting a fresh, new, unturned blank into the lathe safely and securely. Okay, so the first thing that I've done is I've prepped some stuff outside of this for you, but I'll try to kind of show you coming in off camera here. Okay, so this is a turning blank. Again, amazing. Okay, so I did a little X here, and all I did was just go ahead and join side to side and mark that with a pencil, this being a pencil. Okay, so this is the non-writing end, this is the writing end. Again, you may have already known that. All right, so okay, boink and boink. That tells me where the center line is. Okay, then I'm going to take my live center or anything with a point that doesn't retract. Okay, and then I'm going to actually just put that on the center. Okay, and then I'm just going to tap the end of that with a mallet. Okay, a wooden mallet, just something that's not going to damage, obviously, the live center or the spur center. So why do I do that? Because I don't want to then just make this little indent, which references this piece to both ends of the lathe. And I don't want to just compress it in between these two guys with that giant wheel. There are some bearings in there, and if the bearings get undue stress, it's just going to reduce their length of life. So we really just want to kind of give yourself just a little starter hole just to make sure that you can position this correctly and it's in the center. The other reason, that we want it to be in the center, I think for obvious reasons, is if this is off center, it's going to start to rotate like this. Okay, so we want it as close to center as possible. So when this begins to turn, it's also going to have the least vibration possible. All right, so let's go ahead and get this thing in the lathe. So as you remember from the last video, we want to get the spur center into the headstock. Okay, and then we want to put the live center, okay, into the tailstock. I'm going to move the banjo out of the way. Again, I don't think we covered this in the last one, but this is the bed. Okay, so the bed, again, is all polished. Everything's going to be waxed up and really nice. Okay, like this. If this is stuck and not moving very well and stuff, come get me and we'll make sure that, we fix whatever's going on there. Wax it up or whatever. So I'm going to move this out of the way just so you can kind of see, too, what's happening in here. And another thing that you can do when you're looking for a used lathe, if you are, is one of the tests that you can do is to move the tailstock all the way into the headstock. And if that matches up with the point here, assuming both of these guys have not been mashed like this one, then we know that the tailstock and the headstock are well aligned, and that's one of the major things that you want to see on a lathe if you're thinking about a purchase. But that is beside the point. So what we want to do is go ahead and get this locked into here. So you can see already we got a problem. Okay, so one of the things we're going to want to do too, if you can see this, I'm going to block you for just a second. But if you can see this sticking out, so if I've got 2-3 inches or so of this sticking out, again, vibration is our enemy with the lathe. So if this is sticking out that far, this is going to be way more likely to flex, okay, which is going to give us vibration in our cuts, which means less final kind of product on our piece. Our cut won't be as nice, right? And then we won't sell anything, and we'll have to take some horrible, crappy job instead of lathe turning like we want. Okay, so we're going to move this back. So I want this to be sticking out the least it possibly can. Okay, just to avoid vibration. So I'm going to get this roughly, by unlocking the tailstock there, I'm going to get this roughly in place. Okay, so we're pretty darn close. Reference this back here, there. Okay, get this pretty close. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and lock that in place. Okay, and then I can do the rest of the adjustment. Again, I'm probably going to block you here, my apologies. Okay, so now, with relatively little stress and fuss on the lathe, we've been able to center, okay, on the spur center and on the live center. And so now you can see just by turning here, again, this is where the pulleys are, so this is going to drive the whole operation here, so this allows this to spin. If you ever notice that this is spinning, but this is not spinning, just means you've lost contact with your spurs here. And you probably have to loosen up just a bit, okay? And then go ahead and tighten this a bit, and then tighten that back down. Okay, so that is really the way that we're gonna go ahead and get set up at first. We always wanna give it a test spin. Also, we're gonna go ahead and get this up here. And if there was an imaginary line here, okay, I always kind of draw it along here. So like right down the center. Okay, that's where I want to set up the tool rest to begin with. Okay, and that's a good place to kind of start. And also allows you to get this set up so that you don't do this. So that looks perfect, right? It's nice and close. Everything's good, except, okay, I'm actually going to be bashing into that. So this is why we want to test this before we turn the lathe on. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a spin. That looks pretty good. We can probably move it a little bit. And we always want this to be just as close as possible to the piece without actually hitting it. So again, with the vibration I was talking about, if I've got a tool, for instance, this is not a tool, it's a ruler. Please don't use rulers on the lathe. Okay, as this goes over, you can see that this is going to have way more flex. Okay, obviously the turning tools have a bit more thickness here, but it's the same concept. So this is going to cause vibration, which is going to also cause a bad cut. Okay, so much of our cut is going to be that repetition and body mechanics and all that stuff, but just getting the lathe set up properly in the beginning is just going to help you so much. All right, so I got very close there. Let's go ahead and give this a spin. All right, that looks pretty good. So that's what we want to do before we even kind of get to any kind of power. Okay, and as I said before, I'm going to turn that lathe all the way down to make sure that there's no spinning happening. Okay, and I also want to be off to the side of the lathe. Okay, so when I turn it on, not only is this not going to start spinning out of control, but also if something does go wrong, I'm going to be out of the way. Okay, so I usually stand off to the side of the lathe just to make sure everything's kind of good. I'm going to go ahead and flip it on, but I'm actually not going to speed it up because I don't have any safety glasses on. Okay, so we want to always get the fundamentals down, right? So I'm not going to actually turn this on, but just know that it's going to be able to spin freely without actually hitting anything. Okay, and then I will adjust the speed, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next video. All right, thanks.